Breaking news. Raider Nation, we've got major updates you don't want to miss. The latest headlines around the silver and black are stirring up serious conversation, and today we're diving straight into the heart of it. From trade rumors to key struggles on the field, there's plenty for us to break down. But before we get into the latest news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss the breaking updates on your Raiders. Let's move on to the new news. One of the hottest questions floating around right now: should the Raiders trade for star wide receiver A.J. Brown? On the surface, it sounds tempting. Brown is a proven playmaker, and yes, there's been some chatter about his role in Philadelphia's offense. But let's be real, Philly isn't likely to give up a talent like him. The bigger problem with their passing attack isn't the receivers at all, it's the missing vertical game and the absence of their offensive coordinator. Now here's the kicker for Raider Nation: while fans crave a true number one wideout, the smarter move would be focusing on the offensive line. Without a strong line, the run game stalls, the passing attack breaks down, and nothing works the way it should. If the Raiders were going to make a blockbuster trade, an elite offensive lineman would actually make the bigger difference than chasing another big-name receiver. Next up, Rebel Montana brings the heat with this question: what's the Raiders' record against backup quarterbacks? Well, history tells us something interesting. Sometimes facing a seasoned backup like Andy Dalton can actually be more dangerous than facing a rookie with no film. Remember last season? Playing Dalton was a bigger challenge than going against Bryce Young, simply because there was tape and experience there. And now, with players like Mariota or Jaden Daniels in the conversation, the same logic applies: the system stays the same, but the execution depends on who's under center. The backup quarterback situation will always bring a little uncertainty, but let's be honest, dwelling on the past doesn't do this team any good. Every time a new regime comes in, you've got to wipe the slate clean. The trouble is, the Raiders have been doing that way too often. Now, let's talk about where things stand. Some fans are asking, how real is 3-1? Well, let me tell you, very real. Against Washington without Jaden and with Mariota under center, I believe the Raiders are the stronger team. After that, you're looking at the Chicago Bears, who right now might just be in the conversation for the worst team in football. And then there's Tennessee, absolutely a winnable game. If you stack it up, 3-1 is not only possible, it should be the expectation. And from there, the path opens up. The Colts may be undefeated, but how good are they really? And yes, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, but even with their firepower, they're not untouchable. You look at the schedule and you realize, 5-2 isn't a pipe dream. At the very least, this team needs to be 4-3. Think about it, even in that ugly performance against the Chargers, with all the mistakes, the Raiders still had a chance to stay in the game. That tells me this team is closer than people think. The standard should be rising, and it starts now. And then, of course, comes the question: will JPJ be back this week? The signs are encouraging. After missing time with a concussion, he was back at practice in a regular jersey, no restrictions. That's a big step forward. His history with concussions makes it a situation you have to monitor carefully, but the expectation right now is that he's trending toward being ready. At the end of the day, it's simple: keep your best players healthy, take care of business against beatable opponents, and this team could set itself up for a very strong first half of the season. Here's the truth: the solution on the offensive line might be a lot simpler than people think. Put JPJ at center. That move alone changes the entire identity of this unit. It brings physicality, toughness, and stability in the trenches, the very things this team has been missing. Mark my words, at some point this season, JPJ will be the starting center. Whether it happens this week, 2 weeks from now, or even later, it's only a matter of time. When that switch is made, the offensive line will look completely different. We saw flashes of it last year, when similar adjustments suddenly made the unit stronger. The best center belongs at center, end of story. Yes, week 1 wasn't pretty. JPJ struggled, no denying that. But context matters. The field conditions were rough, the execution across the board was shaky, and it was far from a normal setting. Don't let one game define the player. The talent is there, and once he's in his natural position, the difference will be obvious. Now, shifting gears, let's talk Tom Brady. His involvement in the booth has been talked about non-stop, but honestly, it's been blown way out of proportion. The headlines are bigger than the reality. What matters far more is how Antonio Pierce and this coaching staff manage the noise around the team, keep the focus on football, and make the right decisions on the field. Because in the end, drama in the booth won't decide wins and losses. Execution, adjustments, and putting players like JPJ in the right spot, that's what truly matters for the Raiders moving forward. Let me be crystal clear, when Antonio Pierce keeps running his mouth about the Raiders and Tom Brady, I'm not going to stay quiet. If I'm the Raiders, I'm fine with Brady sitting in that booth, because honestly, that's a competitive advantage. But let's be real, if you're a head coach who's spilling every secret you've got to Tom Brady, that's not Brady's fault, that's on you. And frankly, it's just plain stupid. Pierce can talk all he wants about Brady giving him inside scoops, but let's look at the results. Week after week last season, the Raiders walked into games completely unprepared. If Brady was really feeding him information, then that just makes Pierce look even worse as a coach. You can't hide behind excuses when the product on the field speaks louder than the words off it. And let's not ignore the bigger picture here. This isn't the first time Pierce has found himself tied to messy situations, from his time at Arizona State to the way he stumbled into jobs without proving much along the way. To me, it feels like a story of failing upward, and Raider Nation deserves better than being the target of his cheap shots. So let me say it loud, if you want to come after the silver and black, don't be surprised when we fire back. Raider Nation doesn't forget, and we don't forgive. Once a Raider doesn't always mean forever a Raider, not when you're out here throwing shade at this franchise. Now, with that energy out of the way, it's time to turn the focus back to football, because the Raiders have bigger challenges ahead and plenty to prove on the field. When you look at this Raiders offense, the biggest word that comes to mind is rusty. There have been flashes of what it can be, explosive plays downfield, speed at wideout, but consistency just hasn't been there. Geno said something important in his press conference, "Take what's given to us." And he's right. Too often, the offense is forcing the deep ball instead of letting the game come to them. Watch the film and you'll see it, Trey Tucker is getting open. He needs more opportunities. With his speed, those chunk plays will come if the offense starts building rhythm. But it all comes back to the same point, preparation. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, it takes time. And without real preseason reps, it's obvious the timing isn't fully there yet. Practice doesn't look like live football, and you can see the results on the field. The good news? With more continuity, this offense will click. But it has to start up front with the offensive line. Now let's shift to the backfield rotation. If Ashton Gentry needs a breather, who do you trust most? That's a tough one. Raheem Mostert hasn't even been active, and that raises questions about his role. Zamir White has shown effort in pass protection, but as a pure runner, he just hasn't convinced me. On short yardage plays, handing it to White over Gentry makes no sense, it kills drives. That leaves Dylan Lobby. And honestly, he might be the best option outside of Gentry right now. He's improved, he can catch the football, and he brings versatility that White doesn't. Is he perfect? No. But if Gentry's not on the field, I'd roll with Lobby before anyone else. Bottom line, this offense has weapons, but the pieces need to be put in the right places. Clean up the execution, trust the guys who can make plays, and let the talent do the rest. Here's a question for Raider Nation, which running back do you trust the most right now? Raheem Mostert, Dylan Lobby, or Zamir White? For me, I'm leaning toward Lobby, but I want to hear your take, because the rotation behind Ashton Gentry is still wide open and it matters for how this offense moves forward. Now let's shift gears to the defensive side. Reports suggest Greg Newsome could be available out of Cleveland. That's a name I've had my eye on for a while. He was impressive coming out of Northwestern, and his skill set still fits what this defense needs. The timing could line up too. Newsome is in the final year of his rookie deal, and Cleveland might be willing to move him with their season slipping away. For the Raiders, that addition would be huge. Imagine sliding Newsome in as an outside corner. That would let Eric Stokes continue his strong play and move Blue Kelly into the nickel spot. And let's be honest, limiting Darnay Holmes' snaps would be a win for everyone. Adding Newsome would tighten up the secondary and give this defense flexibility it desperately needs. On the other side of the ball, Malachi B. raises a concern many fans are thinking about: can Geno look confident against the Commanders? And it's a fair question. Geno Smith's career has been a roller coaster. Some games, he looks like a top-5 quarterback, other times, he looks completely lost. That inconsistency is what makes this upcoming matchup so unpredictable. If Geno shows up locked in, the Raiders have the tools to take control. But if he falters early, the offense risks stalling again, and this team can't afford that kind of letdown in a winnable game. Let's be real, Geno stunk last week. 3 interceptions, and it was one of those games where everything just felt off. But here's the thing about Geno that I actually respect: he doesn't let a bad performance shake him. He's got the shooter's mentality. Think of it like Steph Curry, missed 10 in a row, he's still pulling up for number 11 without hesitation. That's Geno. He's going to sling it, and he's not scared to keep taking shots. That confidence is what gives him a chance to bounce back, and honestly, he has to be better this week. Now, let's talk about the offensive line, because that's where the real frustration is. Fans keep asking about signing new players, but let's be honest, there's nobody on the open market right now who's a real upgrade. The fix might be simpler than people realize. Put Jackson Powers Johnson at center, where he belongs. Slide Jordan Meredith into guard, and suddenly a lot of the issues start clearing up. When JPJ is at center, you get that physical push up front, which makes life easier for everyone else, especially Dylan Parham, who flat out needs to play better. We've already seen that Parham is more effective when JPJ is in the middle. And while Meredith isn't a mauler in the run game, his pass protection holds up well. Combined with Colton Miller locking down the left side, this line could stabilize quickly if the coaches stop overcomplicating things. As for the trade market, keep an eye on Dylan Parham. If he doesn't step it up, he could be a candidate to get moved. He's in the final year of his deal, and the team does have other options waiting in the wings. It's not a guarantee, but don't be surprised if his name pops up in rumors over the next couple of weeks. Bottom line, Geno's confidence isn't the problem, it's the protection in front of him. Fix the line, give him time, and the offense will look completely different.